It's the 7th of April 1945, and Klaus Hahn from the infamous Sonderkommando Elbe is hunting for a B-17 to bring it down in the most brutal fashion by ramming the enemy. It's his very first mission, and he's already lost his squadron shortly after takeoff, and it's about to get even worse. He's met head-on by a flight of P-51 Mustangs. The aircraft tear past and turn back to hunt the lone 109. They sweep in from behind, unleashing a torrent of 50 cal bullets. Hahn turns to evade as the Mustangs swarm all over him. As the Bf-109s were meant to be lost in the operation, the aircraft given to the Sonderkommando Elbe are not in top condition, and they only have minimal ammunition. Hahn's plane is especially slow, and he's no idea why. The only option he has is to try and desperately evade, but he just can't shake the Americans from his tail. Outgunned and undertrained, Hahn and his aircraft are peppered with enemy fire. The plane is torn apart piece by the enemy machine guns, while Hahn tries everything to shake the planes from his tail, but it's no use. A barrage rips through the cockpit, striking him square on the arm, just under his shoulder. He doesn't even feel it as he tries desperately to maneuver, and in the process discovers the throttle is unresponsive. But checking again, he realizes it's not the throttle. His entire arm is not moving. He has to bail. He rolls his Bf-109 over and prepares to jump. But as he does, his unresponsive arm falls limp against the canopy. Flying upside down, he dives away to try and bail safely, rapidly gaining speed as he falls from the heavens. Hahn looks up towards the ground, seeing his own limp arm against the glass. But suddenly, a gap appears in the clouds, revealing a sight that makes his skin crawl. It's a formation of B-17s right underneath him, the bombers he so despises. His fury gives him strength, and he retakes the controls and dives to the attack. His eyes lock on a B-17 in the very center of the formation. His life flashes before his eyes, and he contemplates how he got to this point. How at the age of 17 years old, he saw streams of bomber formations dropping thousands of tons of ordnance upon his home city.
Die Folgen der Bombardierungen, insbesondere tote Frauen, tote Kinder und tote ältere Menschen, haben starke Emotionen ausgelöst. Ich fühlte, dass ich etwas tun musste.
That something was to sign up with Sonderkommando Elbe. As he signed up, he was told the unit was made to bring down the Allied 4-engine bombers with the Bf-109 by ramming without firing a single bullet, and to inflict such heavy casualties that the Allies would be forced to pause bomber attacks, giving the German industry time to build a force of the superior Me-262 jet fighters. Hahn was told that he was not expected to sacrifice his life, but to attack with an escape plan. Klaus breathes what he thinks is his last breath. His Bf-109 speeds up towards the chosen target. He hits right on the tail, and the tail gunner gets thrown back into the waist gunner area. The B-17 is rocked by the strike. In the cockpit, Bud Wentz radios his men.
What happened? Everyone okay? We're all fine, but we just got hit by a fighter. Damage? We have a massive hole in the tail. The turret is gone.
How the hell are we gonna land this thing?
Vertical stabilizer is all torn up.
We're shedding a lot of parts, Captain.
Understood.
Wentz realizes he needs to quickly get his fort under control to ensure he doesn't hit any other B-17s in the formation. But when he attempts to use the controls, he finds them completely dead. Elevator and rudder both do nothing. All he has is engine power.
How the hell are we still flying?
Below the formation, Klaus Hahn comes to his senses and finds himself in freefall. He snaps awake with no memory of having escaped his aircraft. Looking down, he realizes he's still very high and reminds himself to wait to pull his parachute until he's at a safe height.
Ich bin am Leben, trotz der geringen Überlebenschancen. Ich habe einen Bomber gerammt. Ich war im freien Fall, bis mehr Sauerstoff verfügbar war. Ich zog den Fallschirm bei etwa 3000 Fuß.
The parachute blossoms, and under the stress of his slowing descent, he drifts out of consciousness. Back in the B-17, Wentz desperately tries to keep his B-17 in the air. No rudder or elevator gives them almost no ability to maneuver, but he isn't about to give up.
We're barely stable. I can't hold formation. We're turning back. Be prepared to jump.
He knows if he's not careful, he'll hit another plane in the formation, but he only has one more way of control remaining: the throttles. By differing the power on each wing, he manages to get the wounded plane to turn slightly left and right.
Red leader, this is Red 4. Took heavy damage leaving the box. Do you copy?
Roger that, Red 4. Take care. Red leader out.
But it's no walk in the park. It requires incredible skill. Wentz is focused on the controls as his co-pilot scans the air around them, calling out for nearby planes.
Wentz, watch out! Pull up! I can't! I don't have an elevator! That was close.
He manages to carefully extricate himself out of the formation. They get clear from the planes, but now the bigger problem is altitude. With no pitch control, the only thing he can do to control his altitude is change his speed and wait for the aircraft to naturally rise and fall. In an incredible display of airmanship, Wentz and his co-pilot manage to make big, ugly turns and point the crippled B-17 back towards Allied lines, searching desperately for somewhere to land.
Do you see anything?
Over there.
It's an airfield.
Is that ours?
I have no idea. Do you think we can look for another one?
Wentz sinks. The aircraft shudders.
Now, this one will have to do.
The crew know they're still over Germany. A runway here could be in enemy hands as the front lines are moving so quickly. And the runway they've chosen is much shorter than the base in the UK. But it will have to do.
Mixture control, auto-rich, hydraulic
They're
pressure.
dangerously low. No room to bail out if anything goes wrong.
Altitude 300, 250.
He's only going to get one shot at this.
Engine set to 2100.
The barely flying bomber comes in, right down the middle of the runway.
Altitude 200, 150. Landing gear down. Not yet. Wait. 100. Landing gear now? Wait. Now. Gears, down left.
Wentz deploys the landing gear as late as possible to avoid disturbing the balance, and moments later, wheels land. Wentz cuts out the throttle and hits the brakes. The aircraft rolls down the runway as relief washes over the crew. They taxi off the runway, glad to be alive, but unaware if they're prisoners of war or not. The men check themselves. They can't believe they're still alive. They carefully exit the stricken plane and thank the heavens that they're still alive. That is, at least for now. The airfield appears completely deserted, but then an American infantryman emerges from one of the buildings.
You aren't supposed to land here. I don't have any choice. Look at the back of the airplane.
The soldier explains that they've landed practically on the front lines, and the Americans are planning on moving out. Wentz and his co-pilot glance at one another, not knowing what to do next.
Look, what's that over there?
The men are amazed. It's an incredible twist of fate, as the abandoned plane is a B-17.
Maybe we can take that airplane right there?
Hey, it's not mine. You can have it.
Wentz later discovered that the airfield they had landed in was home to KG-200, a special German unit made up of captured Allied aircraft used for training and covert operations. They had evacuated 2 days prior, all except this one bomber that had yet to be given German markings. Curious, the crew go to check on the mysterious aircraft and find it in rough but serviceable shape. The tanks are even full of fuel. It's too good to be true. They inspect and re-inspect and everything works. They start the engines, and with the last test of the control surfaces, Wentz feels confident they can get this thing home.
Ready to go?
Hold up. Our boys are bringing something from the old bet.
Wentz looks out the window and spots a gunner approaching with a piece of the BF-109's wing.
Souvenir!
With that, the old aircraft comes to life and roars into the sky. They quickly get as high as they can and head for England. With no escort, no formation, and no ammunition, it's a dangerous flight. That is until they get well into Allied airspace.
What the hell is that?
Finally, and fortunately, without the enemy spotting them, they make it to the coast of England. For the second time today, they're landing a B-17, albeit this time, one with all of its controls. Wentz makes a perfect landing, and here's the celebration of his men over the intercom.
Well done, Bud. You made it. You are the best.
I seem to remember we gave you a brand new plane.
Well, that one is down in Germany somewhere.
Klaus Hahn was picked up from the German countryside and brought to a hospital at Münster. His arm had to be amputated, but he lived to tell the tale.
Ich kann nicht sagen, warum ich trotzdem gerammt habe. Vielleicht Verzweiflung. Ich werde nicht behaupten, dass es Mut war. Ich hatte es bis hierhin geschafft, dachte ich. Also kann ich auch das Rammen überstehen.
In the end, the desperate attacks of the Sonderkommando Elbe were pointless. Germany capitulated just 1 month later. With just 150 pilots, they never had a chance to make a dent on Allied bomber formations. Allied High Command never even realized that they were under coordinated ramming attack until documents detailing the efforts were discovered after the war. After the attack, Wentz's crew was relieved of duties. That would be their last mission. They all returned home, and Wentz got to marry his sweetheart as soon as he returned back home. For decades, Wentz had no idea that the ramming had been intentional. He learned about it 58 years later in 2003, when a young author contacted him asking for an interview of what it was like to be on the receiving end. From there, Wentz got in touch with the Elbe veterans, who relayed the news of the crew's survival to Klaus Hahn. Hahn found himself overwhelmed with emotion and tears of joy to finally learn, after all these years, that he had not killed an American crew.
Did you hear about that bull turret gunner? He fell out of a plane without a parachute. Yeah, he's even luckier than us. They made a film about him that you can see right here. Yeah, you should click on it and watch it.